So good afternoon, welcome everyone. My name's Lucy Walton, and on behalf of Western Sydney University Library, I'm delighted to welcome you to the launch of the latest Western Open Books publication, Business to Business Omnichannel Marketing, Technology-Enabled Customer Centricity. So thank you all for joining us to celebrate this important and exciting milestone. Before we begin, I'd like to briefly walk you through today's agenda for the launch of Business to Business Omnichannel Marketing. Today's session will include a short introduction to Western Open Books, followed by presentations from our invited speakers and author. We expect the formal session to run for approximately 60 minutes, including questions. And we'll conclude with a Q&A session, so please hold your questions until then, as we're looking forward to an engaging discussion. For those who may be less familiar with the initiative, Western Open Books is Western Sydney University's open publishing program supported by the library. The program was established to support the creation of publications of high quality, peer-reviewed scholarly texts that are freely accessible to students, educators, researchers, and the wider community. At Western Open Books, we work closely with authors throughout the publishing process, including editorial guidance, copyright and licensing support, accessibility considerations, metadata optimization, and promotion and discoverability activities. Importantly, these publications are not simply freely available teaching resources. They're also positioned as credible scholarly outputs through structured workflows, peer review, and editorial oversight. Open publishing also has significant benefits for students. By removing cost barriers and providing immediate access to essential learning materials, open textbooks help create a more equitable and consistent learning experience. This supports student participation and engagement from the beginning of semester and can contribute positively to student retention by ensuring all students have access to the same core resources, regardless of financial circumstances. At the same time, these books are reaching audiences well beyond the classroom. Through indexing, promotion, and open access dissemination, Western Open Books publications are being discovered and accessed by readers nationally and internationally. So today's publication, Business to Business Omnichannel Marketing, Technology-Enabled Customer Centricity, is a great example of this approach in practice. The textbook provides an accessible and contemporary introduction to omnichannel marketing in the business-to-business environment, exploring how technology, customer insight, and strategic thinking come together to create seamless customer experiences. It is also positioned as an essential learning resource for the subject MKTG 3026 Omnichannel and Marketing Technologies. Importantly, the impact of these open texts extends beyond teaching and learning alone. They are increasingly being recognised not only for their educational value, but also for how they support broader global priorities through the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. This publication is a strong example of that in practice. This textbook is not only a learning resource, it also contributes to broader global priorities through its alignment with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. The strongest alignment is with SDG 4, Quality Education. As an open textbook published through Western Open Books, it supports equitable access to high-quality learning materials by removing cost barriers and ensuring students can access essential content from day one. The publication also aligns with SDG 8, Decent Work and Economic Growth, through its focus on contemporary business, marketing, and professional capabilities relevant to industry and employability. There's a strong connection to SDG 9, Industry, Innovation and Infrastructure, through its exploration of digital transformation, omnichannel strategy, customer technologies, and innovation in modern business environments. As an open textbook, it also contributes to SDG 10, Reduced Inequalities, by improving access to educational resources nationally and internationally through open access publishing. The text also connects SDG 12, Responsible Consumption and Production, through its discussion of integrated value chains, strategic decision-making, and sustainable customer engagement practices. And there's also a reasonable alignment with SDG 17, Partnerships for the Goals, through its emphasis on collaboration, integration and partnership building across organisations, technologies and stakeholder networks. So together, these SDG connections position the book as more than a teaching resource. It represents a broader contribution to accessible education, innovation, workforce capability, equity and sustainable business practice. Now that you have a sense of what's ahead, let's move into the keynote presentations for today's launch. We're delighted to have several speakers joining us this afternoon. First, we'll hear from Associate Professor Tendai Chikweche, who will provide some opening reflections on the significance of business-to-business omnichannel marketing and its contribution to contemporary business education and industry practice. Then we'll hear from the book's author, Dr. Neeru Sharma, who will share the inspiration behind the development of the textbook, the key themes explored throughout the publication, and the growing importance of omnichannel thinking in today's business environment. Following this, Jewell, our Learning Partnerships librarian from the Sable faculty at Western Sydney University Library, will discuss how open textbooks such as this support curriculum design, student learning, accessibility, and equitable access to education at Western Sydney University. Thank you again to everyone for joining us today to celebrate this wonderful achievement. We hope today's discussion provides insight not only into the book itself, but also into the broader value of open publishing, collaboration, and accessible scholarly practice. It's now my pleasure to invite our first speaker, Associate Professor Tendai Chikweche, Head of Discipline Marketing in the School of Business at Western Sydney University, to provide some reflections on the importance of business-to-business omnichannel marketing and its contribution to contemporary business education and industry practice. Thank you, Tendai.
Thank you, Lucy. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for attending this launch. I think as Lucy said earlier on when we were talking, I'll probably keep it a bit more casual and maybe not go into the detailed, deep domain sort of discussion. I think Neeru would do that extensively. But let me begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the sovereign lands from which I'm joining, which is the Darug Nation. I would like to pay my respects to elders past and present and extend the same respect to any sovereign nation colleagues with us at this meeting today. And I think also importantly, acknowledging that knowledge creation and sharing have been taking place on these and other sovereign lands for thousands of years. We often underestimate or undervalue the fact that knowledge creation and sharing has been taking place for thousands of years. But importantly, today is Neeru's Day. We celebrate a launch of a book, which is a third in our discipline of marketing, which is a remarkable accomplishment and I guess a testament to Western's publishing platform's growing reputation, for supporting academics to publish quality resources to assist our students. But as I said, it's Neeru's Day, and I would like to congratulate Neeru on taking on the challenge of developing this press book, drawing on a vast experience teaching omnichannel marketing. The result of an incredible effort, I think, is evidently the high quality, well thought out and well structured press book, which will be an important resource, not just for our WSU marketing students, but also for other students in the sector. Primarily given the shortage of current up-to-date resources on the changing business-to-business landscape, which this book addresses. But I think this book, from where I sit, is a big testament to Neeru's long-standing passion and commitment to advancing quality scholarship in omnichannel marketing. The detailed high-quality development process is also, I guess, further testament to the growing contribution of Western Open Books as a publishing platform. So thank you to Paul and Lucy for your support on this project. And Paul has been a good friend to the school for so many years. We don't take that cooperation and assistance for granted. So we thank you for that. I'll leave Neeru to outline the benefits of the textbooks, but I'll try and set a context on the importance of the press book from a discipline domain point of view. Omnichannel marketing is a very long, study area in terms of when you look at the title. But the study has evolved significantly, I would say, in higher education due to the relatively high exposures to digital disruption, which in turn has really created a demand for up-to-date practical teaching and learning resources, which Lucy alluded to earlier on. And these, in the context of omnichannel, have traditionally been very, very scarce. It's often very difficult to get an up-to-date textbook that captures omnichannel to the extent that Neeru has actually done so in this book. So this makes the launch of this press book a pivotal intervention, I think, at the right time for our students. If you look at what Lucy spoke about in terms of some of the key benefits. But beyond that, I think going back to the study of omnichannel, it has become, as my legal friends or lawyers would say, is the fulcrum or centerpiece of how marketers interact effectively across integrated touchpoints, which is what the book essentially deals with, and to assist marketers to fully understand their business to business interactions and how those impact on their interactions, with consumers. So I think this growing importance of the study area inevitably requires up-to-date resources for students, for practitioners, a gap that I believe is adequately addressed by this press book through various ways, but I think primarily by capturing the nuances and increasing complexities of omnichannel marketing, given the digital disruption, as we have all seen with artificial intelligence. There are constant changes taking place in the market, and I think the book captures and sets strong foundations for capturing those complexities. But I think also importantly, the book provides resources that bridge theory and provide some real world experience for students, which I'm sure Neeru will take us through when she looks at the benefits of the book. When she looks at the themes, we'll clearly see that there is a very tangible, evident effort to bridge theory, and provide some practical assistance to students. But I guess broadly speaking, I think when you look at its contribution, as I mentioned in my introduction, it's going to be of benefit not just to our students, but I think to students across the sector. We've seen that with other press books that have been launched, such as the one by Eyeline Research and Jason Sports. These are increasingly being used by students in the sector, not just in Australia, but also across the globe. So I look forward to Neeru's press book making similar and more significant contributions. But from a student's, I guess, experience and engagement point of view, I would say the book will provide value for students in developing much needed, applied industry relevant skills, using the various world-class studies that are in the textbook. And as you are all aware, this is a major area of focus for us, having recently launched our Bachelor of Marketing and Martech. And a key challenge has been to ensure that we actually have the appropriate, relevant, well-mapped resources to deliver on subjects such as omnichannel. And I think Neeru's intervention, as I said, is pivotal in the sense that we see it as a main pillar for us actually being able to deliver on our new major. And I guess beyond marketing, it's also important to note that whilst there's reference to omnichannel marketing, I think when you look at the content and areas that are actually covered in the textbook, they really go beyond marketing. You also have an element of just general business and management covered in the book. Lucy spoke about the institutional benefits with a focus on SDG, but I think from a simple strategy alignment, for me, the book is key in ensuring student access, to materials, which we all know have become very expensive. But I think this provides students with easy access to very up-to-date learning materials, which is critical for retention of those students, which is critical for us ensuring that our students, are successful beyond their time with us. And I think Lucy brilliantly captured those benefits from an SDG perspective. And I think Neeru will expand on that when she talks about the themes. So as I said, today is Neeru's day, so I think it's only befitting that I finish by encouraging you all to engage with and share the book and to adopt it in your curriculum. As I said, it goes beyond marketing. It also goes into other areas around business and management. So we hope to see the book being included in the reading list. And as I hand over to Neeru, who is the star of the day, I also encourage other colleagues who might be on the call, who might be considering to do press books, to look forward to working with Paul and Lucy and the team, and also tap the experience and expertise that colleagues like Neeru have done. So over to the star of the day. Congratulations, Neeru, and we look forward to a successful imprint of your textbook. And as we were mentioning earlier on with Lucy, that you're already thinking about a second edition. So we look forward to that. So once again, congratulations to Neeru, and thanks everyone for turning up. Over to you, Neeru.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Tendai. So yes, please join me in welcoming the author of the textbook, Dr. Neeru Sharma, Senior Lecturer of Marketing in the School of Business. Dr. Sharma will now share the story behind the development of the textbook, including the inspiration for the project and how it came together. So thank you, Neeru.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for being here today. I'm present on Bharat land today, so I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land and respect the elders past, present, and emerging. And the meeting today is happening in continuity of the learning that has happened on this land for thousands of years. I would like to also acknowledge Western Sydney University, the Western Open Books team, colleagues, students, friends, and everyone who has supported this project and joined us for the launch of the book today. It's truly a special moment for me to see this work finally come to life. Next.
Yep.
Yeah. So I start a little bit about what's involved in the writing of the book and the themes, etc. So when people hear the term omnichannel marketing, they often immediately think about retail businesses, online shopping, or consumer brands. But customer expectations in the business-to-business markets are not much different from consumers, especially in the post-pandemic era, because of digital disruption and all. So B2B customers today do not just rely on sales representatives. They move seamlessly across websites, mobile apps, social media, sales reps, call centers, emails, webinars, and also face-to-face interactions. Yet most educational resources on omnichannel focus heavily on consumer markets. We also call them B2C also, and do not fully address the B2B marketing context. So that was really the starting point of this book. And there is one more thing that at our university, our omnichannel and MarTech curriculum recognizes B2B markets as a crucial component of the subject. So students studying this subject need a learning resource that could help them understand not only the omnichannel theories, but also how they work in the business-to-business environments where it's situations is totally different because the buying decisions involve multiple stakeholders. Decision-making cycles are much longer than consumer markets, and then relationship management is a key factor, and also the transactions are of much higher value compared to consumers buying products for their own consumption. So most books on B2B marketing do not cover omnichannel. So they cover business-to-business marketing theories, frameworks, but scarcity of resources that integrate that to omnichannel. So, and also on the other side, existing resources on omnichannel, they often cover only one or two aspects of omnichannel marketing. They cover in depth, but only a couple of them, perhaps like supply chains or CRM. So while I've been recommending students since the launch of our subject omnichannel marketing in spring 2002, 22. So have been recommending students to read articles and case studies published by omnichannel experts like management consultants like KPMG, McKinsey, and also thought leaders. But students needed a more integrated understanding of how all omnichannel elements connect together in practice in the B2B markets. So this book was basically created to bridge that gap. Next, please. Thanks. So at Western Sydney University, this book directly supports our subject omnichannel and marketing technologies, but I hope it will be valuable more broadly for educators and institutions looking for contemporary learning resources in the areas related to marketing, including B2B marketing, omnichannel marketing, digital marketing, customer experience, and also management subjects. So I wanted the book to cover not just foundational concepts, but also provide a practical orientation because that's essential in our subject delivery. So throughout the chapters, readers will find real-world examples, case studies, and applications which are drawn from both Australian and global businesses. And I deliberately included examples that students could connect with and that demonstrate how these concepts operate in practice. So rather than remaining purely a theoretical perspective. Another important aspect of this project is that it is an open educational resource, so high quality learning resources should be available to students regardless of financial circumstances. So I'm very grateful to Western Open Books and the university for supporting initiatives like this that improve equitable access to learning materials. Finally, the book is also relevant for managers. Many organizations these days, they are still transitioning from multi-channel approaches in order to implement omni-channel strategies in true sense. So businesses often have multiple channels and those channels may not always be integrated effectively also. So this creates problems, barriers for customers, and also it creates operational challenges for those organizations as well. So I wanted this text to provide practical frameworks and insights based on the latest research of the thought leaders that practitioners could also relate to and apply in their own organizations. Next, please. Thanks. So this covers a little bit about what actually the book covers. So this book brings together the elements of technology, strategy, people, and processes to create seamless experiences for B2B customers. So early chapters introduce the core concepts of omnichannel marketing, how distinguish it from multi-channel marketing and integrated marketing, because there is people who think that these things are interchangeable terms, but in order for the students to properly understand so that they can apply omnichannel into the real life situations, their exercises, etc. So it is really very important that they need to be clear about what's actually omnichannel marketing and how it is different from the other types of marketing, like digital marketing or integrated marketing, marketing communications, etc., which they have studied earlier in their degree. And also the chapters shed light on the challenges that buyers encounter. This is actually one of the most important topic that, in B2B markets, what type of challenges buyers encounter if they have to interact with the company in a multi-channel, their suppliers in a multi-channel environment. So they have huge problems. So this book comprehensively covers that and emphasizes the positive impact of adopting an omni-channel strategy. Another very important highlight is that all we know that customer journey is a critical concept. Because organizations today need to understand not only where customers interact with them, but also how those interactions connect emotionally and operationally across the entire buying journey. So in that, we give students, the activities or maybe related to assessments also that they have to use customer journey mapping. So, in most resources, there is customer journey. So there needs to be a template given to them. So, most templates, they are applicable to consumer marketing situations, uh, but none of them really I found. So from my own research, I developed a customer journey map template, which is applicable to the B2B context, which is based upon, a lot of research, which is from uh, consulting organizations, who guide organizations to implement omni-channel strategies, and also the consultants like KPMG and maybe Accenture, Deloitte. So there is sources, but there was nothing like that we can give to students that this is which applies and you use this. So I prepared that and I introduced that mapping template to help students to capture the nuances of a B2B buying journey. So just to give a quick idea that normally in consumer buying journey mapping, we have about 5 stages or 6 stages, but this buying journey template has 10 stages. So which is quite, to capture the complexity of the buying situations that B2B buyers encounter. Okay. So going to the next one. So the book explains the omnichannel marketing strategies, very important. And uh, uh, discusses how they enable companies in dismantling barriers between channels. One important theme in the book is the integration of personal and digital channels within an omni-channel strategy. Because in B2B markets, especially, digital technologies, of course, we all know they improve efficiency, and omni-channel marketing actually involves application of a lot of software technologies. But at the same time, human resource, that is also very important. So there is a topic in the book that talks about integrating personal with digital channels, like how sales representative making use of the technologies can make even omni-channel more efficient, improve accessibility, data-driven decision-making, because personal interactions, they remain essential for building trust with the B2B buyers, managing complex negotiations in those transactions, and developing long-term relationships. There is also a topic on transition models, like strategic transition models from going from multi-channel marketing to omni-channel approach. So that is also explained, because omni-channel transformation is not simply about adding more digital platforms. It requires a proper alignment, organizational alignment, technology integration, customer-centric culture, and coordination across departments and partners to create a consistent customer experience across every touch point. One feature that I'm especially pleased about is the integration of interactive and applied learning elements in the book, because as educators, we know that students learn most effectively when they can connect concepts with practice, and I wanted the textbook to support that type of engagement. So there are activities which are built with the H5P interactive tools, and also there is other application exercises which are based on uh, local organizations and the leaders in Australia who implemented omnichannel, when it was a very new thought. So that is to engage students to the subject matter. So finally, I would like to say that writing a book is never an individual journey. It is shaped by colleagues, students, institutional support, industry conversations, and personal encouragement from family and friends also. So I'm sincerely grateful to everyone who contributed to this journey in different ways. Um, I hope this book helps students better understand the evolving world of marketing, supports educators in their teaching, and provides useful insights for managers navigating digital transformation and customer-centric strategy. So thank you, everyone, again for being here today and for celebrating this launch event with us. Thank you once again. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Badra. Thank you so much, Neeru. Thank you so much for that introduction to the book and insights into omni-channel marketing and the vision behind the textbook. Please join me in welcoming our next speaker, Paul Jewell, Learning Partnerships Librarian for Sable at Western Sydney University Library. Paul will discuss how business-to-business omnichannel marketing supports curriculum design, enhances student learning and promotes equitable access through open education. So over to you, Paul.
Thanks, Lucy, and hi, everyone. Firstly, thanks, Neeru, and congratulations on a wonderful achievement to get this book published. I know it's a measure of your commitment and expertise to see it the long haul. It was a long journey, I know. And also thanks to Lucy for all her expertise as well and getting the book. It's a big achievement, and it's a great example of a partnership between the library and the school and librarians and educators to produce a great resource for our students. So I guess I just want to touch on a few things around the teaching and learning aspect, I guess, and some of the highlights that open textbooks can provide to our students and academic authors potentially. The open textbooks provide this opportunity for academics to provide, as Neeru nicely put it, content or curriculum that isn't well supported at the moment. If textbooks don't cover what they need to teach, it's an opportunity to create a resource where you can localize content, whether it's to Western Sydney or a particular topic that isn't covered in textbooks, and you can tailor that to student needs, at different levels, and provide, I guess, material that meets those learning outcomes. How best you'd like to do that. I guess the next important points around reading lists, and as we know, these books can be embedded in reading lists and provide an opportunity to, I guess, help engage students more with readings is the opportunity. And there's a big push across the university now as part of a new reading list framework, to transform reading lists to make them more engaging and have more students have more access to digital content and more content that is freely available, so they don't have to purchase it, because it's proven that students are put off by the cost barriers sometimes involved in textbooks. So there's a big push across the universities to help to improve that reading engagement, and open textbooks provide the chance for academics to do that. And I guess that last point's around that equity of access, and making books freely more available helps improve student engagement. Thanks, Lucy. We'll go to the next one. Thanks. And I guess I just wanted to highlight the School of Business, as we know, has been one of the most prolific publisher of open books. There's just 5 of them. I know there's another one from Isla coming on customer support on the marketing. So that's just an example of how prolific the school has been, which has been awesome to take on open books as a way of publishing and encouraging students to engage with curriculum and their learning. And I guess it nicely shows, I guess, one example or story I wanted to say was Jess Richards, who did the sports marketing open textbook. And I like sharing this story where similar to Neeru, the content in the existing textbooks wasn't matching what she wanted to teach. So she wanted to do some case studies on some of the local sports teams and how the students go out and do placements within those and mock press conferences at like Parramatta Stadium with the sports team there, or Canterbury Bulldogs. So she really wanted to improve that engagement with students with their learning by localizing it and making it more interesting to learn in terms of, engaging. So by putting those case studies in the textbook, it helps get students, attached to sort of that learning process or more encouraged with it. Yeah. So that's just one nice example of where we can encourage students to read. Yeah. So I guess, I just wanted to bring out those highlights and just let everyone know that the Learning Partnership librarians, whether it's business or if there's others from other schools here, just reach out to your Learning Partnerships librarian or Lucy, and we can, forge ahead with more open textbooks, hopefully. Thanks, Lucy.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you so much. I'd also like to acknowledge as well other colleagues in the library who have contributed to the textbook, being Jeffrey Ha, who worked tirelessly to get the book into publishing shape. Frank Hill, who was our former copyright officer, who took a lot of time and care with the content, the images, and the all the third-party content that was added to the book. That was a major issue to address or go through. Bearing in mind also that this book is one of our, has taken a long time to publish because there was so many images in there that, so it was nice to go on that journey with Neeru to get the book published. Also to Laurie Taylor as well, our copyright and licensing specialist, who did the last checks and balances on the copyright as well. So thank you to everyone that contributed to the book, and also anyone I might have missed as well. So thank you so much for that. As we come to the end of today's launch, I'd also like to briefly highlight how Western Sydney University authors can get involved with Western Open Books and explore the opportunities open publishing can offer for learning, teaching and research at Western Sydney University. One of the simplest ways to get started is by exploring and sharing of publications. Business-to-business omnichannel marketing is freely available, open access through Western Open Books, and we encourage you to read it, share it with your colleagues, and consider how open text like this can support your teaching, research, or professional practice. You can also discover a growing collection of titles across a range of disciplines through the Western Open Books website. For academics and educators, open textbooks can be directly integrated into teaching practice. As you can see, texts can be included as essential resources in reading lists, aligned with subject learning outcomes, and used to support student engagement through practical examples, case studies, and accessible learning materials. By providing immediate and equitable access to core resources, open textbooks help create a more consistent learning experience for students from the beginning of semester. There are also opportunities to create or contribute to open publications yourself, and this might involve developing a new open text, adapting existing open educational resources for your discipline, or collaborating with colleagues on co-authored content. Increasingly, we're seeing academics use open publishing not only to support teaching, but also to extend the reach and visibility of their scholarly expertise. Importantly, you're not expected to do this alone. Western Open Books provides support throughout the publishing process, including guidance on copyright and licensing, peer review, editorial workflows, accessibility, and quality standards. We also work with academics to help embed texts into curriculum and maximise discoverability and engagement through promotion and indexing. So if you're interested in exploring an idea or learning more, I encourage you to visit Western Open Books or contact the Learning Partnerships team at the address on screen to start a conversation about your project. So with that said, our speakers are now ready to answer your questions. So if anyone has a question, please raise your hand or add your question to the chat.
Can I ask you questions, Aurora?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Michael.
Thanks for the presentation, Neeru. Obviously, we were doing the revision of master marketing, and I think this is quite timely for one of the subjects. So I'm sort of figuring out whether you talked about whether some of the content could be useful. So you talked about the buying journey template. What does that look like? Because I'm really interested in that, and maybe we do this offline. What does that entail, and how can that be used in a obviously a postgrad level, or is that specifically targeted towards the undergrad?
Yes, thanks, Michael. The book is not specifically targeting undergrad. It is targeting anybody who would like to understand the realities of B2B markets. I mean, the challenges that they encounter in a multi-channel environment and how adopting omnichannel can get them superior experiences. So it is applicable to postgraduate as well. And that's what I was actually thinking even, before the presentation, because I'll be teaching multi-channel marketing. The students will need a resource about what omni-channel marketing is or strategies are. And in terms of your question regarding the customer journey mapping template, so I can of course talk to you later about it if you're just talking to you about that, but maybe just quickly giving you an idea that how ordinary customer journey mapping in consumer sense, we have 5 stages: awareness, exploration, and recognition, or advocacy, etc. So in this there is a lot more stages because there is a supply understanding the needs, for example, to specify what actually we need, the product the buyer needs, and then exploring the suppliers, evaluating suppliers, and then negotiation, and then there is onboarding, and then purchase, post-purchase, and then renewal or dissolution, etc. So it is actually an extended template, which I can maybe send you by email. You can have a look at it. And so this is, based upon my research. Let's say KPMG, so they did their research, but slightly in a different sense. So it was experiential buying cycle. So just taking some ideas from that and also attending to some seminars of some experts. So that's how I developed it. And I've been using that template for these classes since the launch of the subject in 2022. But in this, of course, now it is publishable, in that form as well. So yeah, so of course, yes, the resource will be useful for the postgraduate students. Yep. Without a doubt.
Thanks, Lucy. Thanks, Neeru, for that. I'm not too sure whether I should be asking questions, but anyway, I think I'll ask.
Go ahead. Of course you can.
My question, Neeru, is really an operational question. So if you were to pick out 1 or 2 pain points that you could share with any other aspiring colleague who wants to go through the same journey of developing a press book, what would be your pain points and what would be your advice? What would you say were probably some of the pain points that you kind of encountered in the process, and how did you address those? As an advice for someone, say me, I want to develop a new, I want to do my own press book on marketing innovations, and I'm like, so Neeru, what are the pain points? Because there's often this fear of saying, of course it is a lot of work, but we don't know some of the back office, pain points, and see how you navigated those. Thanks.
I wouldn't call them pain points. Actually, I would call them learning points. Because it's always good to see as an opportunity and a positive experience rather than looking at the frustration or, of course, you need a lot of patience. It is a laborious task, and need patience. And to have an open mind, I would say, the positive attitude, because when it is for the first time, of course, there is a lot of things to learn. And after I have done it, I mean, I have learned so much. That's why I was talking to Lucy before everyone arrived, that it was like a door opener for me. I came to know how a book is written, what is front matter, what is back matter, what is this form, what is that form, and what are copyrights, things like that. And through this experience, actually, you know, I got that energy, that encouragement and confidence, that I started writing another book on omnichannel marketing and also another book that's a personal interest area. So right now working on 2 more books. It's because of the library team who has this platform available to us, which is in-house. We can email them anytime. Uh, we can ask any questions. And also it was like, next door, that they're here. It's not like a distant publisher or somebody that we don't know how it is going to be happening. So I would say, yes, there is pain points or learning points, but overall it is a value addition. So I would see that in a very, very positive sort of, from that perspective. And um, yeah, so if one is ready to take that, opportunity, I think it will not be a pain point, but because the learning will be much more than that. I mean, of course, there are pain points. So you have to go through, wait for the reports. And, there is, of course, Lucy's Turnitin report wasn't bad. That was pretty good. But then you have to wait for the reviewers. So there were 2 reviewers. So they were not also bad. They were pretty good. I mean, of course, if someone gives me something to review, I will have my points and, feedback, and I would like them to change something. So overall, it hasn't been, I mean, if you just keep this aside, like the time consumption and the hard work, and there is all that stuff that has gone into it, but just keep that aside, because if you are creating a thing like this, of course it requires patience, it requires hard work, it requires research, it requires that uh, acceptance that, of course, it's going to come to me. I need to then do this, complete this. So if you are ready for all those, then I would say it is a great outcome. So yeah, I would suggest that we should do it.
Wow. Okay.
That's really wonderful to hear. Thanks for that wonderful question, Tendai. Um, just from me, what surprised you most during the process, Neeru?
Uh, I think what we should do, probably, maybe, nowadays I'm aware that you are doing workshops as well, so people can attend, and they have the opportunity to learn through those, any workshops if you have. So I think proper knowledge of the process, like what's involved, what happens at which stage, and all the steps and everything. Um, uh, I mean, I didn't attend any. I had applied for some grants. I wanted to do this book through a grant. I applied for 2 years. I didn't get. So, but I know I didn't attend any workshop or anything. So I didn't know the process. I mean, for me, it was like while I was going through it, I was learning. So
We grew together on this, I think.
yeah, that's what it is. So what surprised me? I think the copyright thing surprised me, because earlier, I mean, I didn't have the idea, that I cannot include anything at all. I mean, the articles I can distribute in the class, students can read, but I cannot include anything like, a theoretical model or something, which is like a crucial component. If you want to give a resource to student on this topic, so I thought, copyright will be an easy process, but it did not turn out like that. It was, I think, the most challenging, because I did not expect that way, that I will be ending up only with the links to those frameworks, rather than including that framework by, you know, uh, through some process, getting the rights to show that framework in the book.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So I thought that maybe you guys have some system that you can get that license or something like that. So so they can be made available to the students in the book itself rather than just through a link. So that was the biggest surprise for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah.
What else was there? There's a couple of questions. There's a bit of a discussion in the chat around whether the textbook could be a video-only textbook. I think there's a couple of responses there about maybe using Google Notebook to create podcasts or audio versions of the book. So that might be something to think about as well, Neeru. And what else was there? Oh yeah, and Bardra is inviting you to do a thought leadership presentation on the book because it supports so many sustainable development goals.
Yeah, I'll explain that, Neeru. It will be nice, especially how you went through this process and all these things at your convenience, whenever it is possible. If you could think about doing a thought leadership presentation, that will be great for academics and for even PhD students or HDRs. We can invite them or whoever is interested, because this is an open access book. Other universities or people will be interested. You can just think about it. I have put some information in the chat about how what is thought leadership event and how you can come. We can have a discussion at a later stage.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for letting me know, and we can talk about that also. Yeah.
That's been really, really good. Lots of questions in the chat. Lots of questions from people about the book, which is really good. And yeah, look, thank you so much for all that. It's very, very interesting, very insightful. Learned a lot about omnichannel marketing. So thank you. And on that note, we might move on to the end of this session. We've got about 5 minutes left. So as we come to the end of today's launch, I'd like to sincerely thank everyone for joining us and being part of the celebration of business-to-business omnichannel marketing, technology-enabled customer centricity. A special thank you to our author for sharing her expertise and insights, and to all of our speakers and attendees for contributing to today's discussion. This publication is now openly available through Western Open Books and can be accessed via the DOI and link on your screen. So we encourage you to read and share it with colleagues and students, and to consider how it might support your teaching, research, or professional practice. One of the strengths of open publishing is its ability to extend knowledge beyond institutional and geographic boundaries. Every time a text is shared, adopted, cited, or embedded into curriculum, its impact continues to grow. A recording of today's session will also be made available after the event, along with follow-up information and links to the book and related Western Open Books resources. So I'd like to thank you all again for your time and support, and we look forward to continuing to work with you through Western Open Books.